Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
Welcome to Good News with your host, Angela Savage. For the next hour, Angela will guide you on the road to happiness while describing her own journey with the help of friends and family of her father, championship racer Swede Savage. Phone lines are open at 702-483-4444. Once again, that's 702-483-4444. Or you can stream us online at vegasallnetradio.com. And now, let's start on the path of happiness together. Here's your host, Angela Savage.
Good morning and welcome to Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas All-Net Radio. I want to wish you a happy Monday morning. The weather here in Vegas is so beautiful. We finally got out of the heat and now kind of went into the freezer, but it's very refreshing. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I sure did. I got to go to my very first bat mitzvah where my boss, Aaron, was the MC. What a blast. I've never been to a bat mitzvah, so it was a very fun learning experience and a blast. I have a very, very special friend and guest with me here today, Aurther Benjamin. He's an artist. Aurther was born in Rotterdam, Holland, spent his childhood in Rhodesia, and moved to the UK in 1974. He currently lives in Phoenix, Arizona. In addition to an impressive and diverse portfolio of fine paintings that include neoplasticism, abstract iconography, portraiture, and surrealism. He has also created an impressive body of motorsports art. His work has appeared in countless newspapers, periodicals, magazines, and books, and even on the BBC's wildly popular show Top Gear. I recently met Aurther shortly after he completed a most beautiful, bold painting of my father, Swede Savage, in his 1973 STP oil treatment special, which we'll talk about very much during the show. It's my pleasure to welcome him to my show. Aurther, welcome, and thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Angela.
It's really nice to have you here. A lot of people do art of my dad, and I'm really attracted to that. You know, in a way, it means just as much as, if not more, as actual photos, because, you know, with art, it actually comes from the soul of somebody, right? Not just from a snap. And your picture really just resonated with me with the clean, simple lines, the perfect colors. You know, it really just got the point across. You know, I love your style, and I love the painting that you did of my dad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, your personal background is quite unique. Tell us how you ended up in Phoenix, Arizona, by way of Holland, Rhodesia, and the UK.
Angela, how long do you have? No, it's how it all happened very, very simple. I was born in Rotterdam, 53. And around the late 1950s, my father decided to completely uproot and restart again in Africa, which was a land of unbelievable opportunity.
Wow.
And as it is, it still is a land of unbelievable opportunity. So we went down there, where I basically saw a beautiful country with beautiful people up to my 10th year, and not a day goes by. This is no lie, no day goes by that I do not think of that country. I grew up in there. My most informative period happened in Africa, in Bulawayo.
What a wonderful experience. I mean, really a different place and a different environment to grow up in as compared to most of us. Tell me what you think was different about growing up there than, say, UK or United States.
Well, for starters, you had about 99% sun. We were living in not quite the wilderness, but we were right on the edge, very near the Metopus Hills.
Wow.
Where Cecil Rhodes landed and discovered, and hence Rhodesia named after him. So we were 20 miles away from that, and the amount of times we went into those hills and saw that real naked beauty. We saw his grave, and we even then, at that young age, you're actually looking at unbelievable history. And that's the whole thing of life. It's history, history, history. You can't get away from it. And it's informative. And what the history for you is when you're young is the present now and will form the future. You can't get away from it.
But why Africa? Why that's kind of the biggest jump out of the boat you could possibly make. What was it that drew your family there in the beginning? Was there anything in particular, any specific place or family or anything? Why Africa?
My father had heard that it was still the land of unbelievable opportunity, and because of his background during the war, he was a Holocaust survivor. And he wanted to get away. Europe was becoming communist.
Yes.
In 1948, the country in which he did a lot of business, Czechoslovakia, became communist. And he thought, if the communists now overrun Europe, we're basically back to square one with the Jews in Europe. So he decided to investigate well before that happened and disappear. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
It seems like.
And the Suez Crisis in 56, and then he thought, this has to be, I got to make my move now.
Mm-hmm. And with all the industrialism and such, and you mentioned naked beauty, meaning naked nature, and, land that hasn't been touched so much by humans. I mean, he was probably just really wanted to get back to nature and regroup himself.
Could well be, and when you look at the place where we lived, when I actually Google Earth, the house that we lived, not much has changed. Perhaps a few, the road that we lived at, Diamond Drive, that used to be a dust road. Now it's tarmacked. That's progress for you.
Is there anything inside you that wants to go back to visit? There must be.
Yes and no. I would be following in my footsteps yet again. And what I have with Africa is my last memory when I was 10 years old. Now, do I want to do that and destroy that through the eyes of a level 62 individual? No, I probably don't.
It was perfect. So you just kind of want to leave the book perfectly written and then not go back.
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the been there done that sort of thing, but in a much more beautiful way to say it.
Absolutely.
The book was written, the book is finished, right? And obviously you have so much drive and you do so many things. You're writing many books still, new books. I think it's important to mention, since we're talking about your dad, that today is the anniversary of your father's passing.
Indeed, 7 years ago.
And I'm sure that's really tough. I don't believe in coincidence, so I'm actually honored to have you on my show on the anniversary of the passing of your father.
No, he's up there and he's looking after us all. I'm
very
sure
proud of you. He's very proud of you. Just like people have been telling me, my father's proud of me as well, and that it really means a lot. It means everything. Like you said, history is everything. At what age did you begin to realize that you had artistic talent?
Quite late, actually, very late. I wasn't one of these kids that say, "Oh, I knew what I was going to do when I was 3 years old." That never happened. People never noticed me like that. I was just an average, boisterous, destructive little kid.
Yeah.
Very much so. And it only when anything had to be drawn or done, it would be my brother or my father. Nothing really special about that. And that came later, and I sort of tentatively started doing cartoons. Now, Carl Giles, which in my mind was the #1 cartoonist in the United Kingdom, he passed away many years ago, and he's definitely from World War II, and he set the pace of cartoonist. He actually is the bedrock of cartoonist.
The bedrock.
You check a Carl Giles cartoon, you have the whole family which never aged, the twins, the grandmother, the mother, the father, and they stayed twins, young twins from the 40s up to when Giles passed away. I believe it was in the 80s, I don't know. But I always looked at Giles and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be a cartoonist. And I tentatively made the first cartoon. I used to draw cartoons in the class instead of listening to the English lessons.
My people.
Absolutely. I was a rebel without getting, with a cause, I suppose, or without a cause.
The good kind, yeah. Coloring outside the lines, right?
Coloring outside the lines, yes.
Right. Nothing has to rhyme, right?
Absolutely.
Color outside the lines. Was there artistic talent running in your family? You mentioned something about your brother drawing, or
No, he did it because he was asked. But it's only when I later started to develop. The family looked at me with a sort of benevolence. Oh, he draws and he paints. It's okay. Let it work out. He'll become something else. He'll become a doctor or whatever it was.
right? So
Yes.
they weren't really counting on you being an artist. That it was a phase, kind of.
It was. Oh,
and then
yes.
you would grow into your more, suit and tie,
Absolutely starch shirt.
type A,
Oh yes.
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 cubicle kind of job, right?
Absolutely, and
Which I just can't see putting you in any box. You sort of represent the no box theory, where free thinking and free ideas are awesome, and we need more of that.
Well, one of my sayings is that if there's no mold in which you fit, make one yourself.
I like that.
Go outside it. It will be accepted. End of story.
And it will if you can kind of somehow show your vulnerability, because we're all vulnerable and scared. If you show a little bit of that, just be real. That's what I'm trying to do on my show is just be me, and do my best, and that's good. That's all we can ask for from anyone, really.
Yes, it's my generation. My parents' generation was you had to go to school. You couldn't flunk, otherwise you'd end up in a mine somewhere. Literally. So my mother used to say, get that piece of paper, the qualification, which of course I can understand. And they spent a lot of time and money and effort and passion for us to become quote unquote sort of educated, respectable people,
Right.
which I didn't.
Well, you're educated, but I think you used your education in your own creative, artistic way.
I do, yes.
With creative license. I mean, I would call you more brilliant than educated. How's that?
Flattery will get you everywhere.
But
Absolutely.
I don't really give false compliments. So, I've always been impressed by your general character.
Thank you.
Okay, what were your early influences in your life, just generally? I mean, did you have any mentors, or who was an older person in your life that influenced you or led you in any particular way?
The person that would have influenced me if I'd met him would have been my grandfather. My father used to tell me about his father. He was also a very unusual character, very unusual indeed. And for those days, that was something else.
Yes.
There are stories which I could repeat on air and some which I could not repeat on air.
Oh, please, give us something good. Come on.
Well, one of the stories was that in those days you went to your tax man with a wad of money and said, right, this is what I've earned this year. And then it'd all be sorted. And one day my grandfather disappeared and didn't reappear for 3 days. He came back disheveled without the money and would not say what he'd done. And my grandfather was also, although he didn't look it, he was an incredible ladies' man from all walks of life. He was an incredible ladies' man.
When you say he doesn't look it, does that mean like he didn't have the typical stereotypical aesthetic? What do you mean by that? He wasn't good looking, or
Definitely not. No, but he had the charm.
He had the charm.
Unbelievable charm.
Unbelievable charm. And I want to point that out again, how, the outside doesn't matter. I mean, it can help sometimes,
Yeah.
right? But, what really matters is the energy that you're emitting from yourself, and the charm and the charisma. And you don't have to be a 10 or some kind of hottie, to really make it in the world. It's about what you have to give, what you have to offer. So, I've always been drawn towards the more misfitted, types, because a lot of times I find they're the most intelligent, but they have different ways of showing their intelligence that doesn't quite fit in with the norm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of guts to live out loud, especially if you're an artistic type B.
You hit the nail right on the head, Angela. You mentioned the norm which is acceptable. And I've worked for companies where it suited. You had to be a stuffed shirt. It had to be a completely faceless shirt and tie. You came in and you disappeared, and you dare not say anything out of the ordinary or just be a little bit different, because heaven forbid, it will be frowned upon.
But don't you create an environment of shrinking violets in that situation? How can that ever bring out the good in anything. I mean, even like in a big business, I believe win-win situations are the way to do it. Now, it's not dog eat dog. You know, you have to spoil your employees and then they'll spoil you back, you know, and that whole old way, which I say is the old school, you know, where you just blended in and you didn't stick out in any way. I want that over, you know. I think that for progress, you know, in human society, it's time to break some molds, you know, and allow, you know, by going forward in your own journey, you allow, you know, you make a road for other people who might be a little bit nervous to shine their colors, because some people want you to turn your light down, you know. Oh, you're too happy, you're too, you know, you're too bright. Can you turn that down for me a little bit? And I don't believe that. I encourage people to really turn on their spirit light, their heart light, and shine, so that we can create new ways.
Absolutely. The fabulous thing is that there are so many people now who have made it, and they've made it outside the box. They are characters in their own. They are leaders. We'll take someone like Steve Jobs, for instance.
Yes.
Allegedly a bit of a difficult man to work with, but look what he's done. And Steve Jobs is a person he's one of quite a few, but the spotlight now is on those sort of people.
And I'm, you know, you can remember back in the 80s seeing like the pictures of the very first computers and stuff. And you know, back then we had no idea what was ahead of that funny picture of that computer, you know. And now look, you know, our whole lives
Visionaries,
are
absolutely.
right here.
Yeah.
You know, so, gosh, just the jump in technology in just a few short decades, you know, it's something to really think about, you know, and I'm sure it's changing the human condition in some way. And I'll be curious to see what the long-term effects are going to be, you know, because we're all more connected through social media, but are we less connected because we're just doing it through a computer, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But that's a fascinating thing. It's people now, we're part of that generation where we actually have seen from the 50s, the 60s, 70s, and I was born in 53, and I'm very fortunate to say that I was grown in an incredible period of growth. And this growth was mechanical, it became electrical, now it's electronic, and I'm part of it. I've seen it happen, I'm part of it. And I can only say I'm absolutely proud to have been there and started in Europe, and now to be additionally proud by being in the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, America's happy to have you too.
Thank you very much.
I think I should probably run to a quick break. We'll be back in just a few moments. Remember, you're listening to Angela Savage, Good News on Vegas, on Net Radio.
Let's get back on the path to happiness. Once again, here's Angela Savage.
Good morning and welcome back to Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas on Net Radio. Hope you're having a fabulous Monday. I know I sure am, because I'm hanging out with my buddy Aurther Benjamin, talking about art and all kinds of fabulous things. Now, before the break, we were talking, Aurther, about some influences in your family. What were some early influences for you, a mentor type person that you had growing up?
Well, growing up, yes, I mentioned my grandfather. He was an artist in his own right. He covered a multitude of events that he was passionate about. Art was one of them. And even prior to that, one of my great granduncles, one of his paintings or his work is at the Museum Boijmans van Beuningen in Rotterdam, in their archives, no doubt, in their vast amounts of files. But also, 121 years ago, one of my granduncles came to the United States of America. It'll be 122 years next year, but he arrived on the boat in 1894 as an artist. And later became into the gem industry, and he achieved 2 patents in the field, which still exist, United States patents, in the gem cutting industry. So he diversifies somewhat.
I'm a geologist at heart. I've been collecting rocks and stones since I was a child, crystals, everything. So that's really cool. You know, any rock hound is a friend of mine. You know, nice to know that there's fellow stone lickers, is what I call them, around me. You know, something about those rock people. They have a secret, you know, about the universe that other people don't have. There's just something really, and I appreciate the gems in their natural state, you know, rough from the ground, you know, rather than always cut and polish. I like the rocks too. So, you know, the decorations at my house are, I mean, there's just rocks everywhere.
I've seen them, yes.
Not everybody gets it, but hey, it's my space, right? What about, what have you been influenced by lately? What's inspiring you in your work lately? Is there anything recently, like a new artist or a movie or a song that's inspired you or is influencing you currently?
Well, life is what inspires me, and I can't say whether it's a color, whether it's a shape, whether it's a juxtaposition, or just a mood I have. A movement which I recently revived is neoplasticism.
Yes.
The neoplasticism started in 1917.
Yes.
By a gentleman called Theo van Doesburg in Holland. And it was called the style, and there were quite a few people who joined the style. It had its own edict, and within a short space of time everybody wanted to go their own route with the style. And they fell out regularly. They used to fall out by letters. They used to exchange letters a lot or meet face to face. And they fell out, and when Doesburg died in 1931, that's basically when the movement stopped. But it really ceased when Mondrian, who lived in France, lived in the Great Britain, and then moved to New York in the 30s, when he passed away in 1944, that's really when the style stopped. The music stopped really at that time. And it was brought up again and used more as an afterthought, but it was never taken seriously. And I think neoplasticism, I find an extremely serious and a very, very...
I do too. I really enjoy the clean, simple lines. You know, can you go ahead and explain neoplasticism to our guests, just, you know, in somewhat layman's terms for people that might not quite understand what neoplasticism is?
Absolutely. Neoplasticism was that you could only use primary colors, which is red, yellow, blue, black, and gray. And if you wanted to use in any shape or form, but it had to be vertical and horizontal. That's how it started. Lines or whatever, but you could not go at any particular angle or any curves whatsoever. Well, within a very short space of time, Mondrian, who stuck by that edict, did not like anybody stepping outside that norm. However, artists, it takes all 5 minutes before they want to break loose.
I mean, how can an artist tell other artists how to be artists? You know,
absolutely
doesn't work that way.
Mondrian, he was an extremely religious individual, and of course all that dogma helped him, prevent him from moving on too much what he wanted. Now, when you look at the other proponents of neoplasticism, they did curve, they did break away very soon, and there's no reason why one should say, oh, that's not part of it. It really is all part of it. But the movement fell dead, sadly, and I was only too honored to bring it up again. And what I've done, I've limited myself deliberately to just what Mondrian said. Otherwise, it's within 2 minutes I'd have something else that I'd be changing every 3 minutes, which I didn't want to do. So I'm very, very particular in sticking to exactly what Mondrian wants, and no doubt I will develop from there onwards. It's imperative. But at the moment, I'm enjoying. I'm having successes.
Yeah, and it's great work too. I love it.
Yeah.
I just love it. Do you have any formal training, or do you have any art education at all?
I have to put my hand up and say no. I've not had any formal training.
I love that. You know, that's the best, you know, when it's really just coming very raw from your soul, you know, and it hasn't been shaped or molded by any teacher or something that might be on a totally different page than you. So, you know, to me, I think that's just as fabulous as if you were educated in the area, if not more.
An art education, or well, what we'll do, it will draw out any talent that you have, but it won't give you any talent.
Structure.
If it's not there, you'll never get it.
Got it or you don't.
You have it. And I managed to follow my own path, did what I wanted to do, how I did it. And yes, there were doubters along the way. There still are doubters.
There always will be. That's what we got to learn to overcome, is that, the haters are going to hate, and
Absolutely.
You just have to. I've even read statistics that say 10% of people that meet you just are automatically not really going to like you, or they won't get it, and that brings me comfort.
Only 10%.
Only 10%. Well, at least we got a place to start, So it's easy for me. Like, if I'm not getting the right vibe for someone, it's okay. Not everybody gets it. That's okay. We just need to move forward with our own passions and, work for the universe. We're not trying to impress each other. We're trying to grow in the spirit more. I would imagine. I think generally artists are growing in the spirit. On a daily basis. That's sort of what gives them an artist mentality, or that creative mentality.
Well, it also depends who you hang out with. All our friends, 95% are artists. So we all fuel each other.
Yeah.
We see each other, we fuel each other, we talk, we discuss, and we discuss even more. And everyone's outside that box. Everyone is, may I use the word, outcast almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone is an outcast. feels an
Misunderstood.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
But it's no one's rich, but no one has a chip on their shoulder.
Well, rich is a relative term, Aurther. I would venture to say they're quite wealthy, with their passion for life, and I can't wait to be invited to one of your parties. I want to go to the artist parties. That's just going to be fun and fabulous.
Well, nobody has, in my circle of friends, nobody has a Lamborghini with a roof rack on it.
I don't need that to be happy. Although they're beautiful, we all love beautiful cars, but being happy in the spirit is what keeps me going mostly. I know that material things, you just can't take it with you.
No.
You just can't take them with you. So, there's other things to pursue.
Absolutely.
Right? Very few artists work in such wide range of styles as yourself. Explain why that is and why you think you're different. Why do you go into all different genres?
Probably a restlessness in myself. Artists are always searching.
Yes.
And I'm no different. And I cut my teeth on motor racing. The first motor racing painting I did, I think, was in the early 70s. And once I was busy with motor racing, I started continuing with cartoons again on top of that. And on top of that, I started doing science, fantasy, and then surreal stuff. And I was still doing the other ones as well. And it comes to a point where you think, well, what am I going to do? When am I going to do? How am I going to do it?
Yeah.
So it's never a matter of what am I going to do, it's what am I going to do first.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and you just kind of go through different things, and that inspires you in other areas as well.
Yeah. So my plan is to live to be 147.
All right.
And once that's done, I'll go back and start all over again. Give or take a decade. I don't want to push it too much.
Hey, I believe in reincarnation, so, you can just come back as many times as you possibly can, because, the world needs more spirits like you, I think, Aurther. So just come on back for centuries to come. Let's see. I wanted to talk about how you were, now in the UK, they call it a motor racing marshal. But here in the States, it's called a road course worker, right?
Absolutely.
So you did that kind of work in the UK for about 10 years, running the road course, correct?
Indeed.
So you're like flag guy, you're cone guy.
Cone guy, fire marshal.
Fire
pit
marshal.
Fire, yes.
And do you think that's what inspired you to paint, such things?
No, the painting was there, but I wanted to start getting more hands-on. Mm-hmm. And one of those hands-on things was becoming a course fire. And I wanted to do it when I was still living in Holland. And my disappearing to the United Kingdom actually put halt to that doing in Holland. And I started actually doing it in the UK. But there's a lot of things to say about that. I started at Brands Hatch, was my favorite track, my only track. I lived local in Kent, so it's Brands Hatch and Silverstone, and I stuck
I
with
think
those.
it's really cool that here you have this very predominant artist spirit, but then you've got this motorhead inside you too that loves the smell of the gas and the tires and let's burn some wheels, you know?
Well, I wanted to be a racing driver.
You did.
Yes, and that's another one of my passions. And my father had tentative links a bit towards motor racing. He knew people who I could talk to, and it never happened. So I've decided to leave the dangerous bit behind and paint them instead. A lot safer.
You know, I plan on doing a little driving myself too, but I have to admit I feel a little bit safer right here behind the mic talking about racing, you know, than actually getting in the car. As we all know, it's a very dangerous sport, and a lot of great men die, you know, for this sport. So, you know, I do feel safer behind the mic. I'll see if I can stay back here, you know, but I plan on doing some driving courses next year. I just feel like I need to do some laps for my dad. You know, I just know he wants to see me do it. So I'm going to do it. But, you know, I don't have any, I'm not trying to be Swede Savage, for goodness sakes, you know, but I might just go and explore the life that I know I would have had and been leading had he not passed, you know, because I'm a motorhead in my spirit. You know, I would have followed in his footsteps for sure. You know, so I just want to kind of play around and see how it feels for fun. Just for fun.
You never know what doors you're going to open.
Well, that certainly has rung true the last couple of years in my life, as all these new wonderful doors are opening, and my life seems to be, you know, unfolding in a really beautiful way. Praise the Lord. And you know, I'm into that now. I'm motivated, you know, to just suit up and show up and see what happens, you know. And usually it's Brill, totes Brill.
Nice expression. I'm going to use that.
Oh, you should. You know, I got that from a really clever guy. You know, he told me Brill is the new word for brilliance, and totes is for totally. So if you're pretty much cool if you're using the word Brill now, so everyone get on board with that. I want to, before I don't do this, I want to make sure everyone knows that you were a supporting artist and extra in various UK soaps. Yeah, probably because of your Sean Connery good looks, right? You look like you belong in a soap opera.
I love it.
Oh man, you know, it's the hair, it's the accent, you know, perfect. You did some comedy series. Yeah, how fun is that? And some Hollywood films.
I did. Yes, that's en masse. There's a lot of people involved in that, and that's fascinating because you never know. One moment you're 100 meters behind the camera with a mobile phone, pretending to be a passerby, and literally the next film you go to, you're right in front of the camera, pro-acting next to an actor. You never know. And then one after that, you're in the background again.
Well,
it's a big
exciting.
equalizer. It's absolutely fascinating.
Sounds really fun. We're going to take another short break, if you don't mind. Remember, you're listening to Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas, All Net Radio.
Let's get back on the path to happiness. Once again, here's Angela Savage.
Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome back to Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas, All Net Radio. For those of you just joining in, I have my dear friend and artist, Aurther Benjamin, in the studio, and we're just chit-chatting it up a bit. How you doing, Aurther?
Still going great
Still
guns,
going
Angela.
good?
Absolutely brilliant, thanks.
Absolutely, Brill. So a minute ago, we were talking about how you were a motor racing marshal, which is what they call the road course workers in the UK. You were there for about 10 years. Did you make any interesting connections while you were there? Did you meet any fun people? Did that lead you to some new friendships?
Absolutely. There are many people there. Among the marshals, of course, you make good friends. And there are quite a few drivers that are happy to mix with the course marshals, of course, or the marshals themselves. And you do build up friendships. You do keep in contact with each other. But one of the main things, I did some Grand Prix, but I think in 1978, what really was the highlight for me is that you guys came over from the West. The Indy guys came over. And there were two races, one at Silverstone, which was heavily rained out, and a week later, or 2 weeks later, I can't remember, I think it was a week, you came to Brands Hatch, which was a beautiful sunny day like it is now. It was cold, November, but it was cold. And the gods, in my eyes, I think 15 or 16 came over, and in all eyes, they were gods. The USAC, the Blue Blazers came over.
Oh, man.
And that was something else. And for the first time meeting the A.J. Foyts, the Andrettis,
Changes your life, doesn't it?
completely. And what I found...
They really are the modern day gladiators.
They are, but the thing that stood out is that they were approachable,
Yeah.
which is what the Formula guys even then definitely weren't. That they didn't have the entourage, but they were stuck behind there with the mechanics and the engineers. And I walked to the pits of Danny Ongaias, and he was standing next to his car reading a newspaper with his Hawaiian shirt on, and I tentatively approached with the program open, with the pen ready, and he saw me coming, folded the newspaper, said hi, smiled, and said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And I nearly fell over. I could not believe that this guy one of the great Indy drivers, would actually say, "Hi,
Yes.
how are you?" to me.
Yes, and I hear that about, Indy car drivers in general.
Yes.
As a genre. The Indy car specifically are the most approachable, the nicest. I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, they were rude or turned me away" or anything. And I want to give that as a major shout out to the Indy drivers have a great reputation for making you feel welcome and like family.
Yes, well, it certainly made me feel welcome in '78, and a lot more marshals at the same time. I even got AJ was somewhere at the back of the pits. That's another thing I'll never forget. He was sitting at the back of the pits, and I asked a couple of guys there, "Is it okay if I approach him?" He says, "Yeah, sure." So I approached, and he saw me from the corner of his eyes and just put his hand up saying, "Not now."
Yet.
So I turned back, and as he came out, he's more than pleased to sign. So I have
see?
AJ's autograph.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice that he was very clear that I can't do it right this second. But
No, and when AJ
I'll
says
be
no,
back.
he means
Yeah.
no.
Well, you knew it. Stopped you in your tracks. Whomp.
he had
it's
a
like running into a
reputation.
big brick wall,
Yes.
right? But you got your connection, and
Yeah.
what a great guy. What a great guy. I'd like to know what motivated you to do the painting of my father in his car.
It's of course, the driver himself, and the fact that he shone brilliantly and didn't get to fulfill what he always wanted to do ultimately. And I felt that depicting him right at the very peak of his career, at the peak of his bestness, in the car that people remember him by, and the beautiful color, and everything, and I thought that's the only accolade. I wasn't ready those years ago. I wasn't ready for it then, and
A lot of people weren't. They really.
I was ready for it a couple of months back, and I thought now it needs to be done now. I have to write this story. I have to.
And it's funny how, the timing, because this is when, 40 years after this really sad thing, it's all kind of being blown back open again. It took me 40 years to even be able to talk about it or admit that that's where I came from, so thank you for putting that, down as something that will be timeless and universal, the best moment in his life. And, the thing is that we're not crying about it anymore. I really want to just be done, because I spent too many years crying. Just too many years, and I still cry, believe me, but they're healing tears. I'm crying because I'm letting the sadness out now. And you really made him timeless by your wonderful piece of art, and I thank you for that.
It's been a pleasure.
It's really amazing. Yeah. Sometimes, I'm getting better and better about looking at my dad's pictures. It doesn't hurt anymore. It used to just hurt to even look at his picture. But art was always sort of a 1 degree of separation from, like, say, an actual photo. But, like, for a long time, looking at art of my father, like a drawing of my dad, it was just enough separation that I could handle it. So art really helped me get to the point where I can face the real photos.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing this very gradually, because it's something, it's a heavy thing to finally go through, but we're going through it. And, you made yourself part of the Savage family. So you're always going to be family to me, forever. And then in our next life, when we come back to have some more fun.
Absolutely. Yes. Twice the fun, please.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about where people can find your work? How people want to. These are for sale. We want to get these prints out everywhere. Not yet. But is there a website where people can find you, or is it better to find you on Facebook? What's the best way to do that?
There are various ways. I am on Facebook on Aurther Benjamins. But if you wanted to go to the website www.1, which is the number 1, pilgrimstudio.com, they'll give you all the information. And if you want send me information there, I'll answer all the questions that no doubt there will be. Yeah,
I definitely want this piece in my house, so we're gonna have to make sure that happens. I love that car. It's my favorite car, even though it's the one that, was part of the crash. I love it because he loved it, and I like to think of it as, he got lifted up on eagle's wings, and if you're gonna go, it's a pretty beautiful way to go, and
doing with what you love,
doing exactly what you love in this beautiful art of a car. It's just pretty awesome, and the fact that people still remember like you and want to put him in a timeless form, being art. I really appreciate that so much.
It's the tip of the iceberg, and there'll be more to come, without a doubt.
Can't wait for that. Okay, well, we're going to do one more break. We'll be right back, and we're so glad to have you on Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas, on Net Radio.
Welcome back. Let's get back on the path to happiness. Once again, here's Angela Savage.
Welcome back to Good News with Angela Savage. I hope you're enjoying our Monday show. In fact, I hope you're enjoying your Monday, because it sure is beautiful outside, and we have a lot to be grateful for. I'm sitting in the studio with my dear friend and artist, Aurther Benjamin. We've been chit-chatting about art, about racing, about all kinds of fun things. And we're coming to the end of our show, so I just have a couple more questions, and then we're going to get to some music. I want to hear, coming from you, how does an artist reconcile art with the commercial necessity to earn a living in the world today?
There are artists who are happy to produce what they want to produce, hang it on their wall and their friends, and say, basta, forget about it, no big deal, I'm not interested. But if you do want to earn a crust out of it, you have to do the legwork. You have to do the legwork yourself. And you have to go online, check out with galleries. If you want to be represented by galleries, if you want to self-represent, go down the route of self-representation, you can do that as well. But ultimately, the horrible word of dollars gets mentioned, and if you want to sell your work, either you're happy to talk about and quantify your work with money, with dollars. If you can, no, so much the better. You have to work and quantify how you're going to do it. Why do you want to do it? And of course, yes, the commercial side of it. If you were to approach a gallery, what they want to see is amount of stuff you can produce on a regular basis, which they can sell. So giving one or two paintings and saying that's it doesn't work for those guys. You have to produce a steady source. And yes, you'll have people who have art number two, money number one, the galleries, and you have to say, am I become a bit of a prostitute about it, if you're happy to do so, or happy still to combine the passion with your output.
Now, as an artist, with social media these days and all these venues for promotion, do you use that to promote and do your own sales, or do you count mostly on these art museums to carry your work? Isn't it a better day today now where we can promote ourselves and have our own, gallery, so to speak, on a website or
Yes.
on Facebook, social media
Yes.
somewhere. So, being an artist still takes a lot of work. You got to do the sales part. You can't just be an artist. You have to do like even radio. I have to try and sell my advertising time and get sponsors just to make it happen. It's
Yes.
not just something that happens because it's a miracle. I'm working hard to keep my show on air and trying to get better at the sales part of it too, right? Which I might be better at the creative part, but I've got some background in sales too. But you really have to kind of navigate and find the balance to stay an artist, but eat.
The social media, as you mentioned, is you can't. It's irreplaceable. You have to do it. I work very hard with my social media. Some days I don't paint. I sit behind the computer. I think, now, how can I further my work? There's a lot of work involved. A hell of a lot of work. Social media is number one, and that's self-representation. I always, if you want to do something in life, you got to do it yourself.
That's right. You got to suit up. You got to show up. You got to be ready for whatever. Most importantly is getting up and getting out there. For a lot of people, I know people who struggle with it's hard to get motivated. Maybe a little depression, anxiety in the world today because there's so much weird stuff going on. And really motivation is the key to everything. You really got to get up and get out there in the world and do your thing. Make your mark while you have the chance, right?
Very true, very true. Combine the two, combine the art with the fact that you have to go out and see people, and you really have the best of both worlds, because you're dealing with the absolute down to the ground money men, and you're dealing with yourself, the pain, and you combine the two, and that sets you on the right path.
Yeah,
it really does.
It sounds like you've really navigated your way successfly.
I'm still navigating.
It's never over.
The journey never ends. That's a beautiful part of life.
But your journey is beautiful. How's that?
Absolutely.
And I think somehow you have a secret of keeping a youthful spirit. I can look in your eyes and I can see the child inside of you, and I'm sure that helps keep you artistic, keeps you out of the boxes, always stay young in your spirit, and be weary of those categories and all those boxes people want to put you in. Just blow them out. Just blow them out the door. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our show. We have about 1 minute. And what I like to do before I have a guest is ask them, their favorite song, and then play their favorite song for them at the end of the show.
Oh, yes.
And you sent me 3 very interesting songs that I listened to last night. Well, I ended up picking a song by Gilbert O'Sullivan, which we'll play in a minute. I'd like to go ahead and take this opportunity to say thank you so much for coming, especially being in the studio. It's such an honor talking with you.
Thank you for being here, Angela.
Will you come back again?
You name the date, I'll be there.
All right. Well, we're going to hang out. We're totally going to hang out. Okay. With no further ado, I want to thank you for joining me on my show today. Remember to like my page, Good News with Angela Savage on Facebook. And we are going to play Nothing Rhymed by Gilbert O'Sullivan.
If I give up the seat I've been saving to some elderly lady, oh man, am I being a good boy? Am I your pride and joy? Mother, please, if you please, say I am. And if while in the course of my duty I perform an unfortunate take, would you punish me so unbelievably so? Never again will I make that mistake. This feeling inside me could never deny me the right to be wrong if I choose. And this pleasure I get from, say, winning a bet is to lose. When I'm drinking my Bonaparte shandy, eating more than enough apple pies, will I glance at my screen and see real human beings starved to death right in front of my eyes? Nothing old, nothing new, nothing ventured, nothing nothing physically, recklessly, hopelessly blind, nothing I couldn't say, nothing why cost today, nothing rhyme. This feeling inside me could never deny me the right to belong if I choose. And this pleasure I get from, say, winning a bet is to lose. Nothing good, nothing bad, nothing ventured, nothing gained, nothing stillborn or lost, nothing further than proof, nothing wilder than you, nothing older than time, nothing sweeter than wine, nothing physically, recklessly, hopelessly blind, nothing I couldn't say, nothing why